fuck racists, fuck homophobes, fuck transphobes, fuck sexists, fuck bigots.
It sounds like your
Thank you for my
dog
TED Talk.
is barking in the background like, get him. Yeah.
Yeah, he's cheering me on.
I think we're all ready to rock. If you are.
right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. This is another episode of the Scoped Exposure podcast. I am joined by a good friend, a amazing photographer, Karyssa. Thank you for joining me on the pod.
Howdy. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So I'm really excited for this podcast. We're going to be talking about photography, obviously. I'm sure that a lot of people tuning in are either fellow photographers or want to get more into that and some other topics. But before we go, Karyssa, do you want to just give a official intro for the folks at home who might not know what you do in the music realm?
Yeah. So I am a music photographer. I do hardcore, post-hardcore, emo. Um I do also intern and do PR for a record label, Morning Records, based out of Florida. Um and yeah, I do the tour thing. You know, out here clicking buttons.
Out here clicking buttons. I love that's the job of the photographer. There's nothing else but pressing the shutter.
Honestly, all I do is push people's buttons, whether it's my cameras or other people's.
Fair. So Chris, I know that you're pretty familiar with the podcast and how I like to intro people. Context to me is super, super important. So talk to me about where you grew up, how you got into, call it more DIY or heavier music, and what got you into photography. I know that's a threefold question, but let's open up the gates.
Okay. So I grew up in a small town of Dover, New Hampshire in the US. Shortly after high school, I moved to Haverhill, Massachusetts, where this is where I started getting more into like music scenes. Um Basically, there was a venue in Haverhill called Anchors Up that would have just a boatload of shows. Um and like living so close is kind of where I started getting into going to shows. I had always loved going to concerts and stuff. But it was mainly bigger bands. But when I started getting into DIY scenes, it was more when I moved to Haverhill. And then I moved very briefly to Boston. With my partner at the time and started getting even more, I guess, into hardcore and DIY, stuff like that. I had a friend also who was in a DIY band called Crystal Methodist. So like I've been like kind of roaming like around hardcore and like DIY scenes. But it wasn't until I moved to Massachusetts that I like really started getting into it. As for getting into photography, it actually came when so I'd been into photography in general for a very long time. Like I started with a little point and shoot film camera as a kid and like would go to the local small mall and take pictures of like the carousel horses, like the coin ride things and whatever.
Cotton candy machines and
Yeah,
all that fun stuff.
exactly. Exactly. And then when I was 16, my mom bought me my first DSLR. I had a Canon Rebel T3i, to which I started doing like senior portraits and stuff like that. Eventually I fell away from it, needed money, so I sold my camera. And then when I met my partner, Dave, um, I was talking to him about like how I wanted to get back into it. And he like really pushed me and like supported the decision. So I ended up buying a Canon 60D and was just using my kit lens for the longest time. And then I started researching more lenses and I found a Sigma macro 18 to 50, I believe, on Kijiji here in Canada.
Shout out
And
to Kijiji. If any of the American listeners, that's like the Craigslist of Canada.
except you don't have misconnections, which makes me so angry.
Oh, what's misconnections?
Oh my god, misconnections is it's a tab on Craigslist where like if you see somebody out somewhere, you can go onto Craigslist and like basically type an ad. Like there's sections that are like man for man, man for woman, or woman for woman. And it's like, oh, to the girl, like I found a couple about me when I worked at Zoomies, and I was like, oh, to the girl with the Betty bangs that works at Zoomies. I saw you rang me up today and you're just so cute. I'd love to take you to dinner. And people just put that out there in hopes that like someone will see it.
So it's an ad. It's not like well, I guess it is a feed. Like you can probably scroll through a couple, but
Oh,
that is
yeah.
so crazy.
Yeah,
Like,
you
oh,
guys don't
someone
have that.
wrote about me and just noticed my like orange beanie or something like that. Like that would make my day for sure. But I think
Yes, Spencer, I saw you at the grocery store. You were wearing an orange beanie. Please let me take you out to dinner.
I saw you in the produce aisle. You were grabbing a lemon. If anyone has any misconnection stories, please post them in the comments. I would love to read those. Or if you've written a misconnection. But let's shift back on track because I'm sure we could
Yeah,
chat about
true.
Craigslist and misconnections for another 10 minutes, but want to stay focused.
Yeah, so, Kijiji found that lens and, started using an even better lens, which, like, got me starting to, like, really get more into it, and from there, it just took off, and I started upgrading my gear when I could, trying new things with, like, prisms, fractal filters, star filters, all that good stuff, like, um, bought myself a flash because I needed one.
Lots of dark venues that you're shooting in, and no matter how like still you can hold your camera, you kind of need it in certain cases for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Like I remember the what was it? The SACE fundraiser up in Edmonton that we did. Um Trying to do that without a flash or like with the just the flash on my camera. I was just like, "Oh, I cannot. We need a flash."
Yeah. We need a flash fam. Let's go.
Flash
Yeah.
fam.
So it sounds like just photography in general has always kind of been in your back pocket, whether you were doing it super actively or not. And it's definitely, how, we met. Ironically, it was at, it was at Terror at Dickens. Is that correct?
No,
Or
trapped
no,
under
Trapped
ice.
Under Ice. I knew it was at
Yeah.
Dickens and I knew it was a T band. But yeah, it was, uh, Trapped Under Ice came and played a handful of Western Canada shows. And that was ironically the same weekend that I like moved to Calgary. So I went down there, did that show, and I had side stage access so I could film it. And I see this person with a camera, and you were a little like reluctant to like get on front. So I was like get in there, get the shots that you need to, and then that's how we officially met and started to collaborate with some scope projects and things like that. Um, and I've definitely seen this like huge evolution in your work. And being just hearing that you did have like roots in photography and then but you did take a break and then got back into it. It seems like you've been doing it like the break didn't even matter. Like you've just kind of been growing since then. Um,
Yeah.
what, in your opinion, has been the biggest thing that you've learned through show photography and have applied that to other types of photography as well?
Low light.
Yeah.
Low light, 100%. Like, I remember shooting my first, it was neck deep with Speak Low at Mac Hall. It was the first photo pass I had ever gotten, and I was so unprepared for it, and, just, like, through the time I started learning how to get better with low light, especially, like, doing DIY shows as well and, like, using that flash and, like, starting to get comfortable with using flash. It really helped me when I went to start doing weddings.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So I shot a couple weddings, in which the reception was in a barn that was just the only light was the outside light coming from the doors and then, like, little twinkle lights or whatever up at the top and, all around, like, the whatever the hell those posts are up top in a
The
barn,
support
I don't.
beams.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
those. Naturally, I don't know those words. English, I can speak it, I promise.
Well, no one's like
Um,
you're the photography expert, not the barn building expert.
this is true, although that would maybe help me further my career in a way. I could just build myself a barn studio.
Yeah, potentially.
But yeah, like, learning how to shoot in low light and be comfortable with flash really helped me, like, when there wasn't a lot of light at these wedding receptions. Um, and then even just then, like, learning how to get comfortable with flash, I started recently, started really working with it and, like, working with, like, a harsh flash in my work. Um, just because I'm very inspired by the photography behind, the brand Solstice Intimates,
Okay.
and which is like a lingerie brand, handmade lingerie brand, and, her husband, who does all the photography for it, Joseph Madden, he uses a flash, and so getting more comfortable with that harsh flash has, like, really helped me to continue my evolution, in photography and my style and my brand. Um, yeah.
Awesome. And yeah, I definitely, I'm a huge advocate for people who are doing anything creatively to give back to their scene in some cases. And I know, I think there's a saying like the first 10,000 photos you take as a photographer are going to be the worst 10,000 photos of your life. So
Yep.
talk to me about just like sticking with that because it's like I feel like the longevity of doing something is like it's a twofold thing. Like you have to like have a little bit of talent or at least teaching yourself or doing courses, but you also have to actually love it. A lot of people probably getting into filming bands or taking photos of bands or just playing in bands in general, like, and they actually don't like to do that. So what's been the driving force or the gas that keeps it going for you?
Ooh. Oh god, that's a good question. It's mainly just my love of it. Like, there have been so many times where I've sat down and I looked at Dave and I was like, I'm selling my camera. I'm done. Like, I can't do this. I cannot keep doing this over and over and over again. Um, just like mainly a big part of it was like going for like a tour job and not getting it and just feeling like I'm doing this like whole runaround over and over again. And what kept me reeled in was just like my love for it, like my undying desire for it. And it gets to a point where you realize that something's not working, and so you have to change it. Maybe touring just isn't gonna pan out for me. That's okay.
Yeah.
Like, you have to a big part of it is also learning to accept the things that you can't change, and, like, I tour with Nothing Gold, and they are my brothers, and I love them so, so, so much. Um, but if that's the only band that I get to tour with for the rest of my life, I'm okay with that because that's just something that I can't change, and in order to be in this industry, you can go in it with a goal, 100%, but you have to be prepared for that goal to not be achieved, and what can you do? What other goals can you make for yourself in which you can continue on and be happy? Like, that's part of the reason why, I started working a lot with sex workers recently, is because I realized, like, being so concerned with where photography is gonna take me, and, like, if I'm gonna tour, am I gonna go to the UK? Am I gonna go to Japan? Am I gonna do this? Am I gonna do that? Like, I'm creating so many, like, goals that are just too big, and I'm setting myself up for failure and disappointment, and above all of that, you have to realize that you need to be in this because you love it, and you may never tour. If you're gonna be a music photographer, you may never tour, but you have to still be doing it because you love it.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I think, you know, realizing that, like, especially like video or photo just in general is something that you or I can do for the majority of our lives. There's not like, I think a lot of people think being an athlete in the NBA or the NHL is like, oh, that's so sick. But like realistically, you have to retire at like mid 30s, if that. I'm not sure. Like, I'm sure a sports buff is going to be like, actually, there's lots of variables, but
Well,
uh,
actually.
yeah. But I do like the career time is not as long as some other things. Like at least for doing something that's visually stimulating for myself, creating content, doing podcasts, video, photos, the whole nine yards. That I've been self-aware to be like that fulfills me, and I can be doing that when I'm 90 years old. And there are
Oh,
other
no, you
career
timed
types.
out.
What's that? I timed out.
Oh, no.
Are we back?
We're back.
Okay. It
You're
says
good.
it says my interconnection is unstable.
Sounds
Mm.
like my mental health.
Well, hopefully we don't have an interruption like that. But what I was trying to say is yeah, like you can run it for a long time, and your photography will naturally change like every 10 years probably with what you
Mhm.
what you shoot, how you edit your photos. So, yeah, I feel like not getting to I guess like too let down on like the call it the losses, because, it could be in 10 years the your work is just at a different level where you are doing other opportunities. Like there's so much for people to grasp. It's not really like, oh, because so and so got to do this, I can't, you know, another there's so much shit, and I feel like the world is shifting in a way where more bands are going to want to take photographers on tour.
Oh,
And it's just
absolutely.
going to become more of a standard that way.
Well, and not only that too, but, like, you think about it, you don't know, like you said, like, in 10 years, you could be doing something else. Also, in 10 years, you could be touring with friggin' AC/DC, first band to come to my mind for whatever reason. Um,
Their music won't change in 10 years. It hasn't for the past 10 anyways.
no, but, like, you could be touring with a band the size of, like, Periphery or, like, Coheed and Cambria or, like, Protest the Hero, something like that in 10 years, you have no idea. So, if I was to actually have gone ahead and like sold my camera and been like, no, I'm done. First of all, where that comes from is entitlement. And like another thing that I had to learn myself, and that like if I can give any advice to any photographers is like let go of that entitlement. Let go of it. You're not entitled to go on tour. You're not entitled to have a photo pass. You're not entitled to anything. And it might be disappointing when you don't get these things, but like like we were just saying, we don't know where we're going to be in 10 years. So in 10 years you might have these things, but if you continued feeling entitled to them, you may never get them. And so like first of all, if there is any like photographers who want to tour that are listening to this right now, if you feel any sort of entitlement, let it go. Hope is fine. You can have hope. But, like, feeling like you're entitled to go on tour with somebody or feeling like you're entitled to shoot a show or feeling like you're entitled to anything is, like, just get rid of that feeling. And, honestly, it'll more likely come to you if you let go of that feeling.
Yeah,
So
I feel like, you know, like this may sound cheesy, but just like real recognizes real in a sense. Like people recognize when someone's busting their ass with their work or they're just like a great person to be around. And sometimes it takes a couple of years for someone to actually, give that chance on you. I I won't say the band because I don't know if I'm actually allowed to mention, but I've been doing a little behind the scenes studio video for a band this whole past week. Yesterday was the last day, and that's a band that does a lot of touring, kind of pre-COVID, and that's a band that I want to surround myself with because of how much they're doing, and I want to be in tandem with them. So, it's not like the very first time I meet someone, it's like, well, like you're not gonna even buy me a drink, and you're going right for the question,
yeah,
versus like
right.
building those relationships and just being, my dad always said this, like, just be easy to work with people.
Mhm.
Yeah. Something I think would be great to cover, because you are someone who does shoot a lot of like more larger scale shows. Like you've done like there's so many bands that I could list off. But it's less of the hey, this show is happening at like my homie's basement or whatever. But you'll still shoot some of those shows as well. But it's
Oh, absolutely.
more of the amphitheaters and giant convention centers for some shows. So this may sound like a very uh level one question, but like how do you do what's your like process with acquiring a photo pass and getting that access that a lot of people you can't just like DM Coheed and Cambria like, hey, can I, come by?
Well, it's actually funny. I do know some people who like who have done that. They just DM the artist for a photo pass, and it just happens to happen. Like they happen to see it. But for me, so I've always like shot for a publication. It started with Varsity, and then I moved to Tongue Tied, and now I'm with Vulture Hound. Um, and It's mainly so some publications will want you to request the show to them, and then they'll send out the email, let you know about the photo pass. For me right now, I'm the only music photographer in Canada for Vulture Hound.
Oh, okay, cool.
So, like they're mainly UK based. So they just kind of looked at me and was like, apply for whatever the hell you want because chances are it's not going to be the same tour that's coming here.
Right.
Live Nation shows are totally different. With a Live Nation show, they have a media accreditation website in which you have to like make an account and give like a letter of recommendation from your publication and like all this stuff. And then they have a just a website for all the shows where you just search your city and then you apply to whichever ones you want via the website, and they just send you an email the day before or even the day of. I've gotten an email like 2 hours before doors being like, "Oh, you're approved for a photo pass. You better get your ass there."
Which band was
Um,
that? Or which show, I guess?
oh god. I believe it was actually Coheed and Cambria. Like when
Of
when
course.
when Coheed was at Mac Hall with Protest the Hero, I got an email about 2 hours before doors, and they were like and to be completely fair, Mac Hall was also an hour and a half away from where I used to live via transit,
Mhm.
and they were essentially like, "Haha, you better get there in time." And I was like, "Oh shit, okay." So then I get there for doors and I'm like, "I have a photo pass." And they look at the list and they're like, "You're not on the list."
Oh,
And I was
no.
just like,
The email was sent probably after the list was printed or something.
"Well, they had to get like it was super embarrassing because they had to get like the stage manager involved and everything and like the TM and try to like find my name on the list. And I'm just like, oh my God, okay, can I just like go home now? Like, I love Coheed, but this is not worth this embarrassment right now. Ended up getting a photo pass and was able to shoot the show. But oh my God, it was just like the worst time. Other than that, you have to just dig deep and find the PR email for whoever represents the band PR wise, and you email them and be like, "Hi, my name is such and such. I shoot for this publication. I would like to request one photo pass and one ticket, please." And hopefully they respond to you.
Yeah.
Just fingers crossed. I also like my what was it? My second show that I shot ever was Dashboard Confessional at Mac Hall Ballroom. And it was another situation, but like instead of Live Nation and the automated emails, it was like an actual PR representative. Literally a half hour before doors, she gets back to me and is like, "Hey, you're approved." And I was like, "Great.
There should just
Shit.
be, like, an industry standard that there's, like, at least a 24-hour notice, because you know,
Please.
most
Please."
of the shows that I'm doing, it's like I get a ticket for, and I'm doing that, and then I maybe it's just different because I'm married and I have a doggo, but just to be like, yo, I gotta go and do this. Like most of the time, that if that was the case, that probably wouldn't fly if it was doing it 10 times over. Um,
Oh,
but
absolutely.
yeah, gotta do what you gotta do for the shots, right?
Oh, absolutely. Do it for the gram.
Yeah, I love that line hasn't quite died out yet.
Oh,
So
Imma beat it like a dead horse.
so Krista, we've talked a lot about photography, but another main thing that both you and I have chatted about discussing is just gender identity, because I know that's something that's very important to you. You're someone who identifies as non-binary, and you've messaged me, about this podcast being a great place for people to feature people who are non-binary, whether musicians or photographers. So, can you just tell me about there's a bunch of things that I guess we can go topic wise with this, but maybe we can start off with just like, what do you think is the biggest misconception about a non binary person?
Um, so every single time I tell someone I'm non-binary and they're like not our age, like usually our age group, like our generation is a lot more accepting, but I've gotten from like older people asking me, "Oh, so you're trans?" No. No, I'm being non-binary is on the trans spectrum 100%, but I'm not a trans man, I'm not a trans woman, I'm not a woman, I'm not a man. I am just me. And like a lot of people also like a big misconception is like the pronouns. Like that, oh, like we can't use they them pronouns because they them pronouns are for a group of people. No, it's not. Like your daughter's going to the movies with somebody and you don't know who they are. You're going to ask, "Well, what's their name?
Yeah.
Is it a boy or girl? What's their name?" So you've already used it in a singular sense, and I am sure you have used it in a singular sense before multiple times, but then when it comes down to somebody's gender identity, it's like, "Oh, well, I don't wanna do that because this is my excuse." Um, Also a big another probably the biggest misconception is androgyny.
Okay.
Um, People look at non-binary people and think that we have to be androgynous.
Can you like explain that word for anyone in the back who might be like, I don't know what that word is. Myself
Yeah.
included, I will say that.
So androgyny is for like a watered down version definition of it. Androgyny is basically like looking like appearing gender neutral.
Oh, I see. Yeah, yeah.
Um there's way more to it than that, but like androgyny is basically like not presenting femme or masc or like presenting a little bit of both. Just kind of being like you look like gender neutral. And for a lot of non-binary people, there are a lot of non-binary people who are androgynous, and that's great. And I love that. I see androgynous people walking down the street, and I'm like, you're hot, you're hot, you're hot. Work it. I love it. But there are people like myself, and I know a couple other people who are either masc or femme presenting who are non-binary, and like that also needs to be respected because not everyone feels comfortable in androgyny. I did it when I first came out as non-binary. I was pretty androgynous. I was gender fluid. Um, and uh, I just realized like that's just not me. Like I love having longer hair. I love being feminine. I just don't identify with being called a woman or being called a girl because I feel like it puts me in this box that like has expectations and I don't feel comfortable with that. And I feel like there's a whole issue inside the not only just inside the LGBTQ community but also inside like the world as a whole or like society as a whole where if you're non-binary you have to be androgynous enough,
Right.
you have to be gender neutral enough, or your gender identity isn't going to be respected. And I feel like that's also like that's a big misconception is that not all non-binary people are like agender presenting or androgynous. Like some of us do enjoy being mask presenting, some of us do enjoy being femme presenting. It's the same thing with trans people, right? Like a trans woman is a woman no matter what, and they can present mask, doesn't fucking matter. They are a woman. Like trans men are men regardless, even if they're not presenting mask, even if they still present femme. And um I think like that's something that society as a whole needs to learn is like our gender identity doesn't necessarily have to be who we are. Like trans people, whether it's trans or non-binary, don't have to present the way that you want them to in order for you to respect their pronouns or respect their gender identity.
Yeah, there's a lot to chew on there for sure. I think the pronouns is definitely something that over the last little while about like learning more about this. Like, um, I think a lot of people default, and I think there is a little bit of a generational gap, being like, well, I look at you and this is what my brain tells me that you are, but like understanding that's not 100% correct. You
Mhm.
need to respect the person's, um, you know, telling you like, hey, this is how I want to be addressed. And with the pronouns, like understanding that if if you came up in a home where maybe there was no one in your family who was like that, it takes time to like get those pronouns. So when you know someone who's non-binary, it's I've seen the growth in myself personally, being like correcting myself, like, oh, not she, they, or not he, they.
Mhm.
But now it's like it's so I'm so used to it in my vocabulary, and I'm um so how do in your opinion, how do you agree with that? It's just a matter of practicing to get those things in your in your, I guess, like overall speech, or is there other ways that someone can, I guess, practice that proper pronoun of addressing someone?
Well, okay, so there's 3 different ways to do this. Um, and, like, all 3 I think are very necessary, to normalizing, like, gender identity. The first one is the pronouns in the bio. Now, I have my pronouns in my Twitter bio. I do not have them in my Instagram bio, so that is something that I am also guilty of even as a non-binary person, but even cis people should have their pronouns in their bio because it normalizes it. So it's not like you see a let's just say you see a trans woman on the internet and she has her pronouns in her bio as she, her. If cis people aren't doing their part to also normalize that by putting their pronouns in their bio, then people can see someone who has she, her in her bio and be like, you're a trans woman. And that can put them in danger. So part of it is normalizing it, and normalizing pronouns, normalizing telling people your pronouns, normalize all of that. Another thing is um, normalize referring to people who you don't know as they, them. Like
That's a
instead of,
huge point. I've been doing that myself lately with like not like assuming someone is non-binary, but like again doing that as defaulting into he and she for sure.
Ex exactly, because you don't know, and then if someone isn't they, them, they can correct you and be like, "No, she, her. She, her's fine," or like, "Oh, he, him is fine." Um, but if we normalize, like, using they, them, then it gives us that practice so that when people are like, "I use they, them pronouns," it's not like, "Oh my god, I need to train my brain how to do this. Oh god," kinda thing. But also, lastly, the third thing is, and I know that there's some more like militant people in the community, and I get it. I get the frustration, but I think that cis people have to be understanding of us and make sure to correct themselves when they need to correct themselves, or also, we need to be kind of more understanding of cis people and be like, well, if you've never had to refer to people as they, them before, or like if you're getting used to using someone's name when you knew them when they had their dead name, like this and the other thing, like we need to correct them and get them into that like um right mindset. And I know that there's a lot of people who would disagree with me on that. I just think like we both people that are non-binary or trans or people who are cis, we need to be understanding of each other and meet each other like in the center and help each other so that future generations of kids or adults who are trans, who are non-binary, like they don't have to do this. It's just normal. It's normalized. Like if my kid ends up coming to me and is like, "Mom, I'm non-binary," then it's like, "Okay, I don't have to worry about them now going to school and like facing ridicule because my generation put in the work to normalize it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um and like just be compassionate towards each other. Um and like if someone slips up with me and refers to me as she her, I don't take offense to it. I just correct them. But another thing that like I think cis people need to also understand is if someone corrects you, don't be like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Like I swear I knew this, that, and the other thing." Like it's not
Please
about
don't
you.
cancel me.
Yeah, please don't cancel me. Please don't hate me.
Yeah.
Like it's this isn't about you.
Mhm.
It was a simple mistake. It's
Learn from
okay.
it.
You were
That's
corrected.
yeah.
Learn from it. And it doesn't need to be all about you. It doesn't need to be like your pity party of like, oh my God, you messed up someone's pronouns and they had to correct you. Like it doesn't need to be like that. You can just simply be like, oh, I'm sorry. I'll take this and learn from it.
Yeah.
Like, and that's really all I personally want. That's really all I know like a lot of LGBTQ community people want. So
Yeah. No, I think that was um all of that is good. And I think the key point there is like our generation needs to do the work so that our kids and our grandkids can come up in a world where there isn't this like extra pressure to like be like, "Hey mom and dad, like I'm this." Like that should like there's a lot of people that came out a lot later in life that they probably didn't want to, you know? Like they
mhm.
wanted to come out when they were 5 or 4. So, I think that's a huge thing.
Well,
Sorry, you go. I'm just looking
sorry.
up something here because I wanted to bring it up, but you keep going.
It's just also like you think about the generations before us, right? Like Stonewall. The whole reason why gay people can get married and why it's not like completely outlawed still. The whole reason why we have shows like RuPaul's Drag Race, the whole reason why we can openly have drag shows or pride parades is because the first pride parade was a riot at Stonewall. Like Marsha P. Johnson, who was a black trans woman, threw the first brick at a cop and it started a riot in which at the end of it we came out with the rights to be able to do these things. And like yes, there's still like currently in Calgary there's been like what recently 5 hate crimes towards the LGBTQ community, which is
Yeah.
absolutely ridiculous. One of them was my friend too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Duke Carlson, the drag king that got spat on Stephen Ave.
Mm,
That's a good friend of mine. And
that's fucked up shit.
it makes me really sad to see that these things are still going on. I know that there is still a fight. I know that like the LGBTQ community is not entirely accepted entirely, but the whole reason why we can have a televised event of drag is because of Marsha.
Mhm.
And like that was her and their generation putting in the work, and now we also have to put in the work with our generation as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like for for the people that think that like, oh, like I like they don't like where the world is going, too bad. Like there's plenty of space like I mentioned before as far as like photographers having opportunities to do stuff and there's plenty of space for people to have drag races and then for people to like, do your American NASCAR stuff, Like it it like and these people who are doing these things aren't really asking you to attend those events. They just want the respect to do that and
Mhm.
not have the ridicule attached to it. Um,
Yeah.
I wanted to bring this up just because it. I think it just came out just a couple days ago. A lot of people were talking about the Matrix, the movie series.
Oh yeah, I just
Yeah,
found out about that this morning.
yeah. So essentially, and I'm gonna. This is all telephone tag, so definitely go look this up. But essentially, the creator of the movies, I guess there was a lot of I guess fan conspiracies and lore exploring when it came to the Matrix being a lot more, um, I guess, centered around trans than maybe the regular Western world at the time thought it would be. But the creator of the movie said again, like if it's the producer, director, whatever, I'm um I'm essentially just planting the seeds for you to go learn more. But I just wanted to read a quote from a blog. I think this is. I'm just gonna find the actual person's name. This is Lily Wachowski. Um, she says, I'm glad people are talking about the Matrix movies with the trans narrative, and I'm grateful I can be part of throwing them a rope along their journey. I'm glad it has gotten out that that was the original intention. The world wasn't quite ready for it. The corporate world wasn't ready for it. So again, that's going back to what you said, as far as us right now in 2020 and the years beyond to do the work and continue to do the work to normalize these things, so we just live in a beautiful and non-judgmental and culture and world. And unfortunately, these recent hate crimes in Calgary, I'm sure there's many other people who are listening in different worlds who are thinking about maybe some unfortunate hate crimes in their specific cities. Um, we wanna we wanna suffocate those hateful individuals and get them out of our cities and our communities. So
Yeah, fuck Jason Kenney, fuck Donald Trump.
fuck
That is
racists.
all.
Yep.
Fuck racists, fuck homophobes, fuck transphobes, fuck sexists, fuck bigots.
It sounds like your
Thank you for my
dog
TED Talk.
is barking in the background, like, get him. Yeah.
Yeah, he's cheering me on.
That's hilarious. Not only did Marty interrupt this podcast, but your doggo has as well. Well,
yeah, he doesn't know when to stop.
yeah. Karyssa, I wanted to jump back to the photography, and then we'll start wrapping it up here. I wanted to ask, what's your, I guess, craziest? Because normally we do a crazy mosh story, and I will ask you that question once we wrap it up. But I wanted to ask your craziest photography story or experience. You've photographed a surplus of bands, a surplus of call it influencers. So just tell me something that you're most proud of, and the behind the scenes of that.
Oh, well, something that like blah, blah, blah. What I'm like, what I'm most proud of, I think, is doing the little bit of touring that I have, definitely.
All good. You keep
Ring
going.
ring.
Yeah. Just getting a phone call.
Um I definitely think like probably my craziest story is my first tour that I ever did was with a band out of Edmonton called On the Front Line. I believe they're called like Violet now.
Oh, okay.
Like they went through like a huge like name change and like brand change. Um and we did Electric Love in Agassiz, like I don't know how to pronounce it, it's somewhere in BC. And that in itself is an experience. If anyone listening has ever been to Electric Love, you know the things I saw. Um, I woke up in the morning to just go pee, and it was like 6 o'clock in the morning, and there's this woman walking around with like her hair is just a mess and she is topless, she's covered in glitter, like her like eye makeup is just all over the place, and she just goes, eggs, bacon, yum. And I was just like I was like, what?
Excuse me?
Excuse me? What? Um There was like another time that I went to again get up, go to the bathroom, and just a dude and a chick naked, just doing the deed in the bed of their truck, just out in the open
The
for the
bed's
world
not
to see.
closed. It's just, you know,
Oh no, God
damn,
no.
damn.
Oh, the view. It was awful. Oh. Um,
I hope
but
that
yeah,
truck
like that's
has some suspension at least.
yeah, like that's probably my craziest story. Because I don't think anything will ever top that ever. Like I have other crazy stories, but like craziest, nothing's ever gonna top Electric Love.
Shout out
Nothing.
to Electric Love. So awesome, Kay. Well, this has been a blast. Last final question. You've filmed a lot of shows with a bunch of different bands in, everything from post-hardcore to heavier music. Favorite mosh story? I'm not sure if you're a mosher yourself, or I think you've thrown some hands in your day. But is there anything that you've seen or any fun little ignorant anecdote that you want to share before we end it off?
Well, I could share the time that my eye was swollen shut the size of a baseball from moshing. It was during like Nails and Full of Hell. Saw them at the Middle East in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And I had been like in like mosh retirement because I was just like, I'm getting too old for this. And like, I'm like 21, but I'm still just like, I'm too old for this. Ooh.
That's
Um,
an early retirement to some.
oh,
I've
listen,
given you a hard time. It's all good.
I used to be a power lifter and I herniated 2 discs in my back. So after that, I was just like, no more moshing. Mosh retirement, here we go. But then like Full of Hell, I was just like, fuck, dude. All right, I gotta do it. So I did it and almost instantly got full force fist to the fucking eyeball. And like my eye was just like swollen as big as a baseball. It was the color purple, like straight up the color purple looked like someone drew on my face with a marker. Um, and the next day, so I was an assistant manager at Zoomies at the time. The next day, I actually had to do an overnight inventory shift.
Oh
And I walk
no.
in, and my district manager is just like, Karyssa, what the fuck did you do? And I'm sitting there like, do you have an ice pack? Please find me an ice pack.
Yeah.
Um,
At least it was an overnight shift where you didn't really have to be like, "Can I get your son a size in this?"
yeah, kid, do you need like a size in the Vans? Which Nike Janoskis can I get you? Yeah, it's definitely was happy it was an overnight. However, at work, I definitely had to wear sunglasses all day for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah. That's a great story. So hopefully, I don't know if that's confirmed your long-term mosh retirement. But nails pits, I'm sure, are just that chaotic no matter where you go.
It's chaotic evil.
Yeah, right. Uh,
Chaotic evil.
So, Karyssa, this has been a blast. I hope I hope people have learned a little bit about photography, but also a little bit about normalizing gender identity. I think that was some really good, important chats, and I'm all about those on this podcast. Can you tell me where people can find your work, how people can support you, anything you have coming up that you want to plug out here?
Um, well, my Instagram is just like at Karyssa Leigh. Um, I have a dark room that is linked, I believe, on my Instagram. Um, to which like you can buy prints of anything. If you like hot girls, you want a picture of a hot girl on your wall, I got you. Um, other than that, like, it's just, I've been doing a lot of work with strippers in the city, sex workers in the city, and I am doing a like 50% off for August for sex workers.
Oh, okay.
Um, so and I will probably extend that into September as well, just because I am still getting into, the industry of like working with sex workers, and like if you are a sex worker and you do like my work, like you can just shoot me a DM on Instagram because I'm chill. I'm just chilling.
Right. Yeah,
That's
and
it.
I'm sure that that invitation will be open long after this whole pandemic is over and traveling is more normalized and reintroduced and doing that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I am currently going back to like work, like photo stuff. Definitely like making sure my clients feel safe, like wearing a mask if they want me to, if they, just whatever I can do to make my clients feel safe in this time. Um, because I know like a lot of people are going back to work, and it's like I'm unfortunately no exception. Like I we need money.
yeah,
Um, but like if there's any way, shape, or form that I can make any of my clients feel safe, done deal. And then yeah, it even after the pandemic, like I do want to still keep working with sex workers, and I do um want to get back to working with bands and shooting shows. So everyone wear your fucking mask because I miss shooting shows. Please and thank you.
yes, I couldn't echo that any louder. I miss all my friends at shows. I miss seeing my friends flip onto their other friends. I am itching to get back to that, and I know you are too. And um, again, I am a huge fan of your work, Karyssa, and I back a lot of your stuff. And yeah, definitely go follow her. Go like 20 photos in a row. Give her like those super long notification lists. And thank you again, Karyssa, for coming on the podcast and jamming with me.
Thank you.